The light cruiser USS Drake has disappeared near the Lorenz cluster. Beverly Crusher's grandmother knew all about roots and herbs, and the USS Enterprise runs into a pop-up ad. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Seventh Rule with Cirroc, Lofton, and Denise Crosby.
Woo!
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
My name is Ryan T. Husk. Today we're doing a review of Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 1, Episode 20, Arsenal of Freedom, story by Maurice Hurley and Robert Lewin, teleplay by Richard Manning and Hans Beimler. Finally, Hans Beimler is here, and directed by Cirroc's old buddy, Les Landau. This was April 8th, 1988. Where were you? That was a mouthful. Oh, by the way, everybody, special thanks to Grandpa One, aka Tim Baum, for sponsoring this entire first season. And also special thanks to our good Canadian friend, Mr. Ryan Galloway, for sponsoring this particular episode. What's up, Ryan? We love you, man.
Yeah, all right.
Best
Great
laugh
name.
in town. How you guys doing?
Wonderful. Lovely to be in this the company of you two.
Ditto.
And on this glorious day, on
Beautiful
Mother's Day weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Or as my husband likes to say, every day is Mother's Day.
Yeah, prove it.
Just gets him out of a gift, I'm sure.
That's smart. Smart guy.
It's abusive. It's abusive.
Neglectful. I'll tell you, I've been looking forward to this episode in particular ever since we decided we're going to do The Next Generation. And I'll tell y'all why a little later. But what did you guys think of this episode? Did you love it? Tasha Yar's shooting phasers at a drone.
Yeah, we get to see Tasha running around with her gun out, getting, some action. And leading the way and strategizing and doing what she does. And it was just great to kind of witness that and let her be, let her be in command and in charge of kind of the awaiting, because Riker is encased in that thing, so she and Data have got to figure it all out. So that was good. It's pretty good, this episode. It gets a little sort of bogged down, I thought, a little bit in the middle. But it's, it was fun to watch them run around in the jungle. It's sort of funny. I think of that Guns N' Roses song.
Welcome to the jungle.
Welcome to the jungle.
Yeah.
Denise,
should have been blasting in the. Yeah.
It's such a coincidence you mentioned Welcome to the Jungle, but you'll find out why in a couple weeks. Anyway.
Oh,
really? What a tease.
Are you sending Axl Rose over to my house? Yeah.
I do love Axl Rose, but I don't think he loves me or anybody, to be honest. Well, we don't have to.
I don't think so.
Cirroc, what were your thoughts on this episode? Kind of different.
Yeah, I enjoyed the episode. First of all, right away, I was happy to see that we saw our buddy Hans Beimler getting credited with the teleplay. So that let me know up top that we were going to see some good, something good in this episode, some good dialogue, because Hans is really talented in what he does, and he's just so great. And we wish him the best on his health currently. But to go on, I thought there were really good moments in this episode. I particularly liked the way Tasha took charge and was able to challenge Riker from the beginning with a strategy. I thought the fact that she came and offered a different approach from the beginning. Like, I suggest something different, a minimal compliment, she said. You said. And, then say first landing party, small and mobile until I'm confident. She says, until I'm confident.
Yes.
Whatever killed the inhabitants, isn't still down there. So she's saying, this is what we need to do. We need a small group of people. And I don't want it, to move forward until I'm confident. So she's saying, I need to make a judgment call on the security and safety of the situation before we take steps. I thought that's a very good kind of take charge type of moment for the head of security to take.
Absolutely. Appropriate. Yeah. That's what we were, at times we're missing in some of these episodes we've seen, where you go, well, wait a minute, that makes no sense. If she's
Denise,
not laying it out.
You were saying I think last week that you would love to see either Worf or Tasha Yar on an away mission and the other one handling security on the ship. But there should always be one or the other. Right. And we actually got to see this one in spades.
Exactly.
This kind of situation.
Exactly. That it makes no other sense.
Right.
Yeah, so that started to feel right for me. That was one of the things that started to really feel right for me. I love the fact that we got a chance to see Geordi be in charge. And I thought that entire storyline was excellent. Yeah. The pressure he was under, the leadership skills that he showed, his willingness to kind of think things through and take other people's input, for him not to have a short fuse and kind of blow up, because I was ready to blow up on that other guy. I was like, dude, you don't come
right when he walks in.
You can't come from the bathroom and come over here and tell me to, get out of here. Where were you this whole time? You weren't privy to the conversations that were happening in this main helm right here. You were over there fixing the replimat in, the bar downstairs. So I don't want you coming here barking out orders to me when the captain specifically gave me the helm. So no, I thought I was ready to blow up, but I thought Geordi did a better job than I would have done in that situation, because I would have been very short.
You would have had a warp core breach.
Yeah.
Well, that was weird too. That guy trying to, usurp power like that, confront Geordi in that way. I mean, having not been privileged to the bridge, never being on the bridge.
Yeah, and there were racial undertones to it too. I'm sorry, but I felt like, because it was a white man coming in there, basically telling this black guy that he's not good enough to handle a situation, I was like, oh shit, this is a moment right here. It felt a little racial to me on the
interesting. Okay.
And I know they must have played it like that, because it did feel hints and elements of that. I don't know if Ryan, you felt that way as well.
I thought that it was very smart and progressive of them to choose specifically go for a white guy there, because too often in the past, it was the black guy that they made be the jerk or the idiot or the guy that, the comic relief, or the guy that gets killed first or whatever. So I thought it was really good, back in 1988 to be aware of this and to say, no, this has to be, a white dude. And then it also adds that additional layer, that racial layer of kind of like, I know the captain left you in charge, but, I outrank you technically. So I'm going to go ahead and plus he was so slimy.
He was slimy. It was creepy.
So arrogant, man.
He was arrogant and slimy, and I couldn't look at his teeth for some reason. It was just, he had funny teeth.
I wanted LeVar to say, where were you the last 20 episodes, bro?
Yeah. You're like
who are you?
You're the fifth chief engineer we've had in 12 episodes, man.
And your name is what?
Exactly.
Unpack your bags before you start telling everybody what to do.
Where's O'Brien?
Yeah, right?
That's true.
Send O'Brien in here.
Yeah, O'Brien, you just got a promotion. This guy's done.
Yeah. Exactly.
And to add to that, he does outrank Geordi technically, right? He's a lieutenant, and Geordi and Worf for Lieutenant Junior grade. However, Counselor Troy, at this point, correct me if I'm wrong, everybody in the live chat, she's a lieutenant commander. She outranks everybody there. She's not trying to take over. She's not, because she has a role. Plus, the captain left Geordi in charge. That's it. Unless Geordi voluntarily says, you know what, I don't think I can hang. Can you take over? Or I'm more needed, XYZ. Can you take over? Unless he says that, everybody has their role. Their role is to execute Geordi's orders. Well,
and they did a nice job of teasing that, because, you know, when he kind of pauses and asks for the guy to join him on the bridge the second time, you think that's the setup, that's what's going to go down, you know, that he tried one strategy
and he's conceding it.
Yeah. And then he just flips it. And that was nice. That was really nice to see.
Episode, the writing in this episode had the nuance that the previous episodes were lacking. Like getting the viewer to kind of think one thing or go in a different way. Whereas the other episodes seem to be very like, you know, straightforward, not nuanced, no extra layers, just kind of dropping stories here and there.
Yeah, and I really also liked the dialogue and the energy between Picard and Crusher, you know, being down in that pit, and their scenes were talk about nuanced, you know, much more nuanced than we've seen, and that was some of the best stuff they had together. And again, kind of a setup for where this is going, you know, another little nugget of what is going to happen, you know, how their relationship is going to evolve.
Yeah, I thought it played very well, those scenes. I wasn't sold on the two of them falling that far, 36 feet or so, or whatever it is, 35 feet.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's 3 stories. Picard is going to be. He
has not a scratch on his body.
Yeah, seriously.
I know. I thought the same. I thought
3 stories.
I mean, she's practically dead. She's practically severed her leg and her arm off. Lost a lot of blood, and he's like, great. Okay, so you know, let's look at this thing, you know, and I'm going to get us out of here. Anyway, that was a little ridiculous.
That's a good point. That's like when they were telling Data, you can't jump down there or you'll hurt yourself.
Yeah.
He could have just been like, Picard fell down there and he's fine. I'll be okay.
I know.
Exactly. And I'm thinking, how does Picard fall that far without some kind of injury? Like, he should be screwed. Like, there should be something. He looked perfectly fine. Like, he just got beat down there.
Well, and so extreme from one another. I mean, you know, at least meet me halfway here. Have a rip in his uniform, you know, and a gash on you know, his cheek or something. I mean, or his bald head look a little cut up or something. I mean,
something.
It's ridiculous.
You know what happened? He must have landed on Beverly. She broke his fall. That's why he's fine and she's so messed up. That's why he feels so bad. He's like, so I'll take care of you. I feel really bad, but I didn't want to get hurt. So thank you.
Yeah, I just after I got over the fact that he would fall that far without getting hurt that much, especially the way it was, because she was holding his arm and kind of pulled him into it. So that would mean the trajectory of the fall wouldn't be like one in which you're bracing for the impact, like Data jumping down the hole, right? You would have fell in a head first, kind of in an awkward way, with somebody grabbing and pulling your hand. It wouldn't have been an easy fall. But having suspended that part of the imagination, I went forward and started to appreciate the scenes that were happening between Picard and Crusher. And I thought that Gates gave some of her best performance of the season in this episode. I thought the softness with which she played certain moments, the way she was injured. Sometimes I feel like there's overacting going when people are injured. And you look at it like, oh, God, it's like such an exaggeration on your part as an actor. She was very. It was the perfect level of tone for me for the way she was feeling the pain. It wasn't overly done. When she started to lose consciousness and talk about I'm going into shock, I thought that was believable. Just in general, I thought that she gave some really great performances. And even at the end, when she starts saying, well, why didn't you just turn it off? Like,
yeah,
she was done with this episode.
She got a burst there, a burst of energy suddenly,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, what the hell are you guys arguing about? Like, where's the off button?
I know.
Unplug it.
That was funny.
Yeah. Have you tried unplugging it and plugging it back in? She also got to show off some great skill on her feet as well. A very well choreographed stunt. I watched it like 4 or 5 times, where she had to fake a fall, a little pirouette, grab Picard's arm, and they go together. And something like that. It's quick and it's simple, seemingly, but they had to practice that a bunch of times. That's not easy to do.
And she's, as we've seen, she can get that. She's a physical, talent. She knows how to move her body. And she's, she had studied clown, stuff in France, and she can work her way. That's actually her strong suit for me, is when she can be that kind of in her body, and not just, yes, Captain, just this serene kind of energy. She does some of her better work when there's some kind of physical thing going on. Yeah.
And she's so good at it. It feels almost like a wasted skill on that show, because how often is a doctor gonna, it would have been nice if they worked that into the script more often somehow.
Yeah.
I believed it. I thought it was excellent. The reason I say that too is because it reminded me of my own incident and where I was in a motorcycle accident, and after the accident, just after it, I was dazed and confused, and I sat down on the side of the road on the curb, and as I was sitting there, kind of absorbing what had just happened, I felt a shock of pain in my shoulder, which caused me to fall, kind of lie down on my back. So I'm lying down on my back, and then I felt a sleepiness that come over me. And it was crazy, because I felt like, oh, this would be a great time to just close my eyes and go to sleep. I'm really tired right now. And that was the thought in my head. Like, you're just so tired. But imagine all of this adrenaline going on. It's not normal to be tired and sleepy, right?
Right.
But that's what happens when you've got a concussion and you have that kind of injury. So I thought that was believable to me, because she was starting to lose consciousness and feel sleepy. She says, I didn't get up. She said, I didn't get that much sleep last night. Remember, I got up too early. And that's the feeling that you have when you're getting concussed. You feel like, oh man, I just need some more sleep. And you want to close your eyes. Now, thankfully, just like in this situation, somebody who was watching the accident came up to me and said exactly what Picard said. Like, hey, wake up. Don't go to sleep.
It's not nap time right now, man. This is the worst time.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I heard that person say to other people who were crowded around, he said, yeah, if he goes to sleep, he might be in a coma and he might not wake up. Mm-hmm. And I heard him say that, and I was like, oh shit, don't go to sleep. Now I'm really I'm trying to fight this sleep feeling. Yeah. So I felt that was accurate, just in the writing and the way they portrayed that severe injury on Beverly's part. I thought that was great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And she started to, chatter her teeth, going into that shock, that like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was well played. Definitely.
And I was like, Picard, just take off your uniform and lay it on top of her. She needs a blanket.
I thought the same thing.
But instead, he's shredding her clothes.
I thought the same thing.
Instead, he's shredding her clothes, though.
Literally, she's facing death.
Yes, she's going into shock.
I would do that for her. I would do that. I would take off my clothes, and so what? I'm in my.
Wouldn't that have been cool to see?
Yeah.
Him running around in his underwear.
Data drops down. He assesses the situation. He's like, Captain, control yourself. This is no time. No, Data, I'm trying to keep her warm. I don't want to hear
it. Those black boots. And
he just got
underwear. And it would have like
that would have been
burnt up the airwaves, you know?
Yeah.
It would have been one for the history books.
Black boots and little red underwear.
Like tidy whities or whatever.
Yeah, tidy whities. But with the captain's tidy whities, you know, they got little pips on them.
Yeah.
I would have loved that.
I swear I thought the same thing, though.
Why doesn't he take his thing off, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Yep. And then I was also thinking there was sand and moss and stuff like that. If somebody's
leaves
really
everywhere,
cold,
yes,
I would bury them in the moss or bury them in the sand.
Yep.
I mean, you know, something. You got to just try something.
I know.
I thought it was like she's just sitting there, like, okay, and I'm like,
you have no idea how.
I'm taking my uniform off. Yeah. Taking my uniform off. I'm just because she's already. It's bad enough that she's in this much pain. At least give her some extra warmth to kind of hold on to.
Do whatever you need to do at that point.
He's like, I guess.
But I was also thinking
body
about.
heat.
I was also thinking about the med kit. I was like, "Where's the med kit?" I thought she was there to bring a med kit, and then I was thinking, why doesn't he have a phaser on him? He's the captain. He's coming down there. He knows it's a hostile type of environment.
Start a fire.
Why isn't he bringing a phaser? And the phaser could start the fire. So there were things that I was thinking about, like this is a very unprepared group in these particular circumstances. Normally, you'd have something with you.
Well, she had her. He says, "I can't find them. We've lost the med kit." But
okay, maybe it fell off from the top. Yeah.
Well, there's no effort to look for the med kit down there. I mean, she had it in her hand when she went over. So you know, the chances are it's in there somewhere. You know, and
she's laying on it.
He should be looking for it. He's looking for a way out. But you know that they're pretty sealed in there. He comes back, so let's at least
or a tricorder. Even if you don't have the med kit, to have you'd be hitting a planet. I'm bringing my gun and my tricorder.
Right.
You know.
Right.
All right. Well, let's take a very quick break, everybody. Still got a lot to talk about on this episode. I'll tell you that much. So we'll do that in a very quick moment. We'll be right back on the Seventh Rule. All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Seventh Rule with Cirroc, Lofton, and Denise Crosby.
Hello.
Here are the trivioids of the week. The light cruiser USS Drake has disappeared near the Lorenz cluster. All intelligent life on the planet Minos has disappeared. The citizens of Minos were arms merchants. Paul Rice rejects your three options and offers one of his own. Commander Riker was offered his first captaincy on the USS Drake, but turned it down. The USS Enterprise runs into a pop-up ad. Riker makes a "your mama" joke. Picard, did you hear that when he said, he was like, "What brings you here?" And he goes, "Your mother." That's what he said. Picard finally starts ripping off Beverly's clothes. Picard doesn't let Beverly sleep. Beverly Crusher woke up too early, and Beverly's grandmother knew all about roots and herbs. It did sound like a "your mama" joke, though, honestly, when he's like, "What brings you here?" And he's like, "Your mother."
Oh, well, my one of my favorite lines of the episode is Riker is like just going, forget about me. What about you? I mean, he's like rapid firing, you know, "How have you been, Paul?" And he goes, where were you? And Rice goes, "I was over there." I was like, where'd you come from? There.
Mystery solved.
It just like landed. It was really funny. I was cracking up.
My favorite actually was when I know the writers, Hans Weimler and those guys snuck this one in. But when he says I was on he's like, "What's the name of your ship?" He says, "Lollipop, the good ship." And I'm thinking, on the good ship, Lollipop.
Lollipop. Yeah, of course. That was just like blatant. It was just hysterical. It was good.
Testing the guys there.
It was
funny.
It
was over the top. I liked it.
Yeah.
So let me tell y'all why I looked forward to this episode in particular. Since I hadn't seen these episodes in decades, and some of them, I mean, I don't remember most of them, and some of them I feel like I may have not even ever seen them. So when I think back to the first season of Next Generation, the Tasha Yar season, I think of this episode because this is the one in syndication. Somehow, for some reason, I kept seeing this one. Every time there was a first season episode, this was the one. You ever watch a TV show and you feel like you keep seeing the same one? That happened to me with Ren and Stimpy, too. I watched Ren and Stimpy twice in my life, and both times it was the same freaking episode. I was like, do they only have one episode? So this kind of was like that. And so when I think back to these days of the first season of The Next Generation, I think of this episode. I imagine I have the imagery of Data and Yar shooting at those droids or those drones, Picard and Beverly, underground, and Geordi on the battle bridge with Worf throwing tantrums. It's just it's a very memorable episode. And it's one that really sticks out to me more than any other episode in the first season for some reason.
Yeah. And this what you have in the background, that's one of the I've signed that card so many times.
Really?
Yeah, this is a classic of, it's because it's us shooting.
Do you remember shooting any of this episode? Because clearly you were out on location. There's no way that was on a studio with a blue screen behind you.
No, that was in that. Yeah, right. Okay, got it. Jesus, it's like that's the hokiest looking, jungle I have ever seen. It's so, silly. No, I don't remember. I remember the pop-up ad, that Vince Schiavelli. I mean, he was just a really cool actor that had been in a bazillion things.
So many things.
So such a distinct face and presence. And he was so funny. He was marvelous in the part. I just thought but he was really struggling with it. He had a really hard time getting the words, memorizing the words and holding it, So he was fighting tooth and nail in those sequences. But I just remember him on set. We would have overlapped at some point because I don't have any scenes with him. But I remember him coming on and me saying, oh my God, it's that guy. He's in so many things, and I've seen him my whole life, and so that was kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah, this was one of my favorite episodes of this season so far. I thought it had all the sci-fi elements for me. I like the way that they had the storyline kind of divided up between the away team and people on board the ship. I like the separation of the saucer. I thought if I was watching that in 1988, that would have been something really cool to see. I don't know, just the whole idea of separating the station, I think is just cool in general whenever it's done. I like seeing Geordi in charge. I love seeing Worf kind of go on, like Ryan said, his temper tantrum. We missed! And he started slapping the console. And I was laughing so loud. I'm like, this guy's he's pure comedy when he wants to be.
Yeah, I thought when he said, we got it, or he's like, got it, I thought he was going to flip the table and be like, raw, we bat-lipped against the wall, in celebration.
Like, literally break the station while you're celebrating. I like the fact that they introduced those couple of new characters, Ensign Sue and Celis, I think it was.
Solus, yeah.
Or Solus.
And you love the chief engineer, too, also new.
Didn't love the chief engineer. Really wanted him to just find himself in a situation. Yeah, something. I thought he was a little bit way too much, and he was adding more pressure to what was already a tense situation. So it was like, dude, calm down. We're already trying to figure this out. You're not helping. Um, but I just like the way the scenes kind of flowed. And the other thing I thought was overall, as far as a concept, the idea of this this computerized kind of artificial intelligence that is self-learning and figures out ways to improve on its attack. And I think that's one of the big fears when we talk about artificial intelligence and AI. We think about it kind of losing control and not being able to have an off switch, you know. And I think this episode in 1988 really embodies some of those fears that we have when we talk about a rogue computer system that has the ability to attack us using weaponry, using any kinds of forms of algorithmic learning so that it can anticipate our behavior. I thought those were interesting concepts that were addressed early on. And I mean, in this show, which was long before AI has become such a relevant topic. And now also in, you know, relevance to the writers who are striking in the business because of the potential of AI, you know, writing them out of a job. So Absolutely. I think this is an important argument that was brought up in this conceptually in this episode, and it is something that is relevant to this day as far as which direction are we going to move forward with this kind of intelligent computer, and how do we see it best benefiting society? Because certainly in this scenario, this is not what we want as an outcome.
Right, and because they're pinpointing weaponry, you know, in this particular case, it's arms, which so it now plays into, you know, our worst case scenario here, that these weapons, you know, can improve, can use, you know, algorithms to get better and better and better until they wiped out their own selves. Their own planet is no longer. And I mean, if this is not cause to, you know, stop right now and reassess, which sadly is not happening, because as soon as, you know, all of these people like, you know, Bill Gates and Elon Musk or whatever, 25,000 or something of the greatest technology people said, you know, please, let's put this on pause. You've got now, you know, a Chinese company devoting billions into developing AI. So the planet, nobody's on the same page here right now. And it's absolutely terrifying, really.
Yeah, the only time they'll end up on the same page is the epilogue. Yikes.
Right.
It's a good point. So what I really liked certain elements of this episode. I'd forgotten, you know, how good this episode was. I just remembered the imagery of it and what the storylines kind of were. Real quick too, that guy Logan, that was his name, Chief Engineer Logan. The thing that he said that really worked was when Geordi finally says, "Mr. Logan, come up to the bridge," and there's that pause, and he goes, "On my way." I was like, I put in my notes, I went, ew. It was so gross.
God, it said it all, didn't it?
It was perfect. Yeah,
you just saw him looking in the mirror and straightening his suit.
Going like,
game on. Yeah.
I knew he couldn't hack it.
Right.
But what was really great about the writing for this episode, I thought, was that they split everybody up into basically 3 groups and 3 storylines. And they've done that in the past, and that's cool. But again, it was missing, you know, the importance of what those scenes are supposed to include. And if you'll notice, everybody in those scenes, each one of those scenes had their conflicts, you know, physical, exterior, tangible conflicts, as well as interpersonal. It's not just, you know, Tasha and Data firing their phaser, they're also working together trying to figure it out. It's adapting. Things are changing. They're working together on that. Picard and Beverly aren't just on the ground, from falling or, this physical thing. They're also working out their interpersonal relationship. He's trying to heal her. She's helping him through it. They're getting to know each other better. Geordi and Worf and Troi aren't just shooting lasers at a drone. There's also conflict within the crew that's happening. Mm-hmm. So each one of these groups had, the physical conflict that they're watching, but every interpersonal conflict with plenty of subtext, plenty of, character development. Even Worf got a tiny bit of character development going from "we missed" to "we got him," So I was like, this is a very sophisticated episode for this first season. I was pretty impressed.
Right. And that's what I was hoping, it was going to be
from the beginning.
That's all you're asking for, is that, there's multiple storylines with integrity, with something going on, with purpose in each, ABC plot.
And one more thing, I was just going to say one more thing on that was, there was a conversation with Troi and Geordi. I didn't necessarily think that Geordi needed that kind of pep talk. And I think that they were still trying to work out exactly what Troy's value is to this show. But it was still good. And it made me think, Denise, of when you said there was a similar scene with Troi and Tasha Yar that they ended up cutting out. It was a very similar scene from how you described it to that scene. So it kind of made me think of what could have been there.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It was, I think it was our audition scene, if I'm not mistaken, that was never shot.
Bummer.
So
yeah. That was actually one of the flaws that I thought in this episode. I wasn't so happy with them writing in the scene with Troi talking to Geordi. For one, I felt Geordi up to that point was handling it exceptionally well. So there was no reason to give him some more advice, because I thought he was already doing a great job. He didn't lose control. He didn't find himself getting angry, even though Drake or that other guy was trying to piss him off and, tell him he outranks him, that he needed to relinquish the command. Even during all of that, he kept his cool. He was still focused. He said, no, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. He was still thinking of solutions. Like, what if we do this? What if we do that? What if we anticipate? There were a lot of things that he was doing right. So I didn't think necessarily that Troi needed to come in and say those words to him at that moment. If he looked like he was questioning himself or doubting, then I would have said, okay, he needs some encouragement. And the other issue I had with that was Troi was telling him that he needed to uplift the spirit of the ensigns and the lower ranking people that were just now at the helm. And I guess the issue I have with that is, Troi, why don't you do that to them directly?
Yeah, because she's staying with in the saucer section. She could have just gone on the battle bridge with him and made sure that, everything's cool there.
Or in the moment when you sense that those ensigns are feeling a certain way, why don't you just approach them directly and say, I know you're feeling like your anxiety, but you're doing a great job. And you say the uplifting words that need to be said to this person because you have such an intuition with this skill set. Why aren't you using that power to directly intervene with those people and say to them, because that's what you're the counselor. So
right.
You want him to be the counselor. You're like coaching him to be a counselor when you could be the counselor. You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Interesting. Good point. Really good point. Exactly, because he's got so much going on. He's trying to save the entire ship from being, destroyed.
Right.
This is not the time to come in and say be nice to them or build their confidence. And that's your expertise right then. If you're the shrink and counselor and emotional support animal, then you need to jump in there. She's just sitting there.
Yeah, she's just sitting there. She could easily walk up to Ensign Sue and say, I sense that you're nervous and that don't worry, you're doing a great job. Everyone,
That's a good impression,
whatever
by the way.
words of just give her the words of encouragement that a counselor does when they're finding ways to uplift you. And I felt like telling him that he needs to do it. It's like he's doing enough. Like he's literally he's got the half of his crew on a saucer. He's half of the guys are down on the planet. He's stuck here trying to find a drone.
Yeah,
and now he's got to worry about the feelings.
Yeah, he's on the screen like minutes, like they don't. He even says, "I don't have a lot of time. I'm in the middle of something here, and why don't you do it?"
That's why I think they were still really trying to iron out, because in their minds, the writers are thinking, we have to make her. We got to give her something. Every single person's getting something. We got to give her something. But I think a better way to do it, and a more subtle and smarter way possibly, might have been for her to just come and offer her services. Or in a subtle way, she comes in and just says, hey, Lieutenant, I just want to suggest, Ensign such and such to take over in engineering. She's really shown a lot of blah, blah, blah. And Geordi says, yeah, that's a great idea. Or just kind of offer her services. And then that's a calming presence right there. Right. And then that also makes her there in case he needs to, and then she could just say, how are you feeling? Is everything good to go? What can I do? How can I help? And so then she's more of like a strategic counselor, a personnel counselor, rather than a psychiatrist walking in when you have 3 minutes to do something to say, I'm only going to take 2.5 minutes. You can see what they were trying to do, but they're still ironing out how to make it work. And, that would have been, I think a more fun way to see her offering up her services.
And then let me add one more thing to that too. The other scene in which Troi did not use her skill set was when Engineer Logan bullied his way into the main bridge.
She should have talked to him.
Yeah. She was looking at him, and then they would cut to her facial expression where she would look over. She would look over at Geordi like, "What are you going to do now?" That was rude. Say it then. Just verbalize those things instead of speaking it with your eyes and kind of like, "Oh wow, shit's really hitting the fan now. What's going to happen? Like, is he going to relinquish the ship or not, or this or that?" Why can't she verbalize to the chief engineer Logan? You're behaving irrationally. You need to calm down.
Go back to engineering.
Yes, or we need you to focus on solutions and not creating more problems.
Right.
Like use your counselor skill sets to verbalize people's emotional state of being, not just when Picard asks you, "What do you think?" More like interjecting into moments when you see people are being mistreated or misbehaving or not handling a situation with an emotional stability, and then verbalize a calming presence and neutralize that energy.
Right. That would be a skill task, that only she has, and she can pick up on this sort of empathic emotions that are going on that aren't, the truth of what's happening, not what just what people are saying, but the truth. So she can take that and neutralize it. Like you said, it's again, great. You're full of them today. You're just full of
Cirroc.
I'm starting to like the show. It's actually growing on me really nicely.
Speaking of which, it's time for the home run of the day, the home run of the episode. It's a toughie today. Lots of good stuff. What do you think, Denise? Do you have somebody that hit the home run?
Well, I really got to hand it to LeVar in this one. I think it was just great to see him in that position, to take control, to work through it. He did it well. I believed him. And again, that wearing that visor, he brings so much with his body language and his tone of voice. And he got us out of a mess here. And that was cool.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to second that one. I thought that LeVar did an excellent job. He actually showed me that he would make a great captain in this episode. The leadership, I thought, was excellent. There were moments, for example, when he walked up to the screen and Ensign Sue was having difficulties finding the pattern. And he kind of looked down at the screen and he was like, "Oh, there it is." He's like, "Don't worry, it's okay. You got it." And he was encouraging to me prior to that conversation with Troy. And that's encouraging, the way he said that. It wasn't like, "What are you, an idiot? You can't figure out the pattern?" It was like, he just took a look at it and says, "Oh, no, that's all right. Here it is. Boom, there he goes. Got it. Keep up the good work." And then he moved on to the next guy, to Solus. So I thought he was doing great as a captain. I thought his performance was in his tone and also his self-control when I felt like I would be angered by what the guy did. I felt like he showed a lot of self-control as his character. And the other person I thought did an excellent job in this episode is Gates McFadden. I thought Gates' performance was really good. She showed the sensitivity. She showed the kind of, I felt her pain. I felt like she was legitimately, injured. And she sold me on that performance. So those were my highlights of this episode. I think those were the big home runs for me.
Yeah, they should have called that chief engineer soulless. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think my home run of the day goes to the writing crew, because I feel like this episode kind of took a step up in a lot of ways. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but it felt like this hit a lot of notes for me that I think make up a good nuanced episode. And they actually came up with a pop-up ad, targeted ads, where that guy that they call him the peddler on IMDb and in the credits, the peddler, it said he scanned their data banks to learn the language and then targeted the ad specific to them. Like, how far ahead of their time were they? That's 1988. We didn't start doing that till like 2018. They're like 30 years ahead of time with these targeted pop-up ads. So I was like, boy, Star Trek really is good at making these kinds of predictions, whether deliberate or not. So definitely.
Does technology mirror Star Trek?
See, that's the thing.
We don't know. That's the beauty.
It's definitely influenced.
Sure.
Yeah, so that they get the home run of the day for me, and also just because each one of those storylines, like I said, they all had, the physical obvious conflict, but they also had, the underlying interpersonal conflict. And that's really the stuff that's much more important to the viewer. That's what makes us hang in there, and watch and want to know what's going to happen next. So big kudos to them. And speaking of kudos, let's give some kudos to some people. And their names are Homer Frizzell, Dr. Anne-Marie Segal, Eve England out in Wales, Yvette Blackmon-Tom, TJ Jackson-Bey out in Missouri, Bill Victor Arucan, our good pal Titus Mohler, Darlena Marie Blender, Dr. Mohamed Noor, Tierney C. Dieckmann, Anna Post, Anil O. Polat, Joe Balsarotti, Mike Gu, Dequeue, Neil Akasaka, Justine Norton-Kertson, Dr. Stephanie Baker, Carrie Schwent, Faith Howell, Edward Foltz, my live from Tokyo, the Matt Boardman, Chris McGee, Justin Weir, Jake Barrett, don't forget Jane Jorgensen, Henry Unger, Allison Leach-Heid, Jed Thompson, classic Marcia Schreier. Let me say that again. Classic, there's quotes there. Classic Marcia Schreier, Brandon Gant, and of course, Dr. Susan V. Gruner and Jason Okun. All right. Everybody stick around. We've got the free-for-all next. So don't touch that dial. Hi, everybody. What luck. It's the free-for-all. Let's have some fun. Look who's joined us. Melissa Longo is here.
Yay, hello. And I'm matching Denise. Woohoo.
Yep. What a deal. And everybody, you can get that shirt, either color, and many more at the link in the description box below at our Teespring store. I think that rhymed. Eve England is out in Wales.
Hello.
Jason Okun has his cool poster of the week. Allison Leach-Heid is coordinating with Eve England, doing an Abyssinian kiosk, the Sisko kid kind of thing. The Dark Lord Chris McGee is here to drop some knowledge on us. Mai is live in Tokyo or Ireland or somewhere. Marcia Classic Schreier is finally joining us today. Carrie Schwent is blessing us with Limerick Day. Faith Howell is on the Enterprise D. She loves Lord of the Rings. Who can blame her? And Homer Frizzell is here to judge us all. So we're all on our best behavior, I think. Oh, first of all, Jake Sisko guesses the IMDb score.
Ooh. Geez, I like this episode. I'm going to go 7.8. 7.8.
Anybody else have any guesses that doesn't know?
7.6.
Wow. That's the highest Eve
8.1?
has ever said. Did that hurt a little bit?
No.
Eve, are you okay? Perhaps she's a holographic projection from a weapon.
Yeah. And Homer, you said 8.1?
Yeah, I like this one.
All right. All bets are in. It is a 7.1. What a ripoff.
That's crap.
Oh.
That's crap.
Rude.
Oh.
Fix.
Ah,
It's
All right.
fixed.
And no non-appearance mentions that I could catch. Chris, did we have any?
No, I almost wanted to say Captain Paul Rice, but we never actually see him.
I think
That's
that's
Only
true.
Facsimile.
Hologram of him. All right. Well, Melissa Longo, can you get us up on
Ooh.
track and tell us what you thought of this episode?
There was a lot that I thought about this episode. And the thing I liked about this episode that it kept me thinking long after I'd watched it, it still has my brain going about the subject matter that it covers and how it's really relevant today. And as pertaining to what Denise was talking about beforehand, and AI. And the AI was used as a weapon in this episode, but it's kind of a warning, that we seem to keep ignoring because we keep getting these warnings and we keep ignoring the warnings. And I won't go too deep into it, but I just thought that was really interesting, and maybe we should start heeding the warnings a little bit because humans have proven they're not that responsible with custodial things. I really liked that this episode showed the crew of the Enterprise working together and sharing their strengths to be the solutions to the problem that is presented to them. On the planet between Picard and Beverly, by the way, I don't know, I love Gates, and she did amazing convincing me that she was injured. And then but the person who took the cake for me in this episode was Geordi LaForge and his command of the Enterprise. And he felt so natural in the leadership position. And even though Logan made me mad, but I think he did great with that, and I like seeing the saucer section separated from the that part. I forgot the word of it for it, but yeah. Overall, I enjoyed the episode. It gave me a lot.
Very nice. Excellent. Thank you, Melissa Longo, Radical Shirt. Eve England, Ooh. What's up? You're out in Wales. It's super late for you. What'd you think of this episode?
Yeah, well, the reason I thought it might have been a higher score is it seemed very watchable, and I mean it had lots of clunkiness and things that you kind of had to suspend your sort of disbelief for a little while. But overall, I thought it was lots of things like Melissa said, lots of things going on, lots of character development. It's really good to see plenty of Tasha Yar finally doing her job for most of the episode, which is like really cool. So that was really good fun. So I just enjoyed. I thought it was a really good, enjoyable watch. And similarly to what Melissa's saying about the AI, that sort of struck me. I think particularly how topical it is. I particularly got sort of war games vibes from how there was this salesman who didn't have a clue what he was doing, and this wasn't a real war exercise. It was kind of this demonstration, and how as Melissa was saying, how AI in the wrong hands, or if you haven't got the controls and systems in place, how it can massively backfire. So I thought, again, it was kind of fairly jovial, I think, the way that they presented it, but I think the underlying messages were quite serious. I thought that was interesting. And I just had one question for Denise. The companion talks about the scenes where we had Picard and Beverly in that cave, that apparently that sand was full of fleas. So I don't know if you recall anything about that and whether that's true.
Oh, wow. Well, okay. That's not surprising, because whenever we would go, we called it Planet Hell. When we would be on the bridge is one set, and but when we would go to an away mission, they would design this other soundstage, and whenever there was sand, because the Paramount lot has a lot of stray cats, we pretty much felt like we were acting in a litter box.
Oh no!
Is that why Picard was trying to unbury Beverly?
God, thank God I didn't have to go into that pit. But it was so the jungle that we're in had, remember, just like this constant layer of fog. And I probably mentioned this before. They were using this toxic oil-based smoke until we had a SAG representative come down to this and stop it, because we were all getting really, really sick. We had constant bronchitis, breathing this stuff. So there were all these like wonky things that just weren't up to code. So I'm that being full of fleas makes sense, because the cats lived there.
Oh my gosh, that's so gross. And she was literally, I mean,
literally,
it must have been horrible to film. There was just so much sand, wasn't there? It was just awful.
I don't, my hands off. Not only did like Crusher just nail the whole thing, but I mean, she had to lay there in that for God knows how, what that took, sitting there in that.
Well, on to somebody that has never met a cat he didn't love. It's Jason Okun. What's up, Jason? You love cats. Maybe.
Thank you. How's everybody? I absolutely love cats, and especially the musical cats. That's the best thing on the planet. It depends on your taste. It just brings back memories. In New York, constantly in the
myself.
90s. You couldn't get away from those commercials.
So what do you think of this particular episode?
Well, it's kind of an interesting one in a way that it's unique in a sense that it's probably the most sort of out and out adventure episode, probably the only real one of the first season when there's just sort of this action and adventure to it, and everybody gets something to do, which is certainly very interesting. Everybody gets to display whatever their characters are supposed to do, and Denise, you certainly get a lot to do, and it's kind of interesting that, again, we talked about it the last time. The closer we get to sort of the end of this run, the more stuff you get to do, which is really interesting. Obviously, the next episode filmed is Skin of Evil, so it's just it's kind of interesting how this whole stuff progresses. And the vibe, I think the overall vibe of the episode to me is a little bit reminiscent of what the original series tried to do. I think visually being on Planet Hell with a very bright blue backing, it's really a little jarring. I think it was a little too bright. And sort of this, I guess we're talking about the AI and us versus computers. I think it certainly goes back to the concepts that the original series struggled with, and Kirk has talked many a computer to death, including, I guess, the ultimate computer, which was sort of the pinnacle of that kind of technology. So it's interesting to see this, and obviously now we're seeing it in a different light because we're closer to that reality than I think certainly anybody would have thought probably in the 1980s, certainly not in the 1960s. So it was interesting to see that, and frankly, looking at anything through the lens of history is really interesting, and it's sort of every one of these episodes is a snapshot in time, and for us to be looking at it from that perspective, and on the one hand, how did you see that 30, 40 years ago, and how are you seeing it now? It's interesting to make that kind of a comparison. But just from the entertainment point of view, I think it's certainly entertained. It was one of the faster paced, I think, episodes. We got to see sort of the Enterprise in action. It's one of, I think, the only 3 Next Generation episodes where you see the saucer separation. Mm-hmm. So it would seem after the first season you'd see this a lot more, and obviously it doesn't happen. But it's certainly nice to see. It's a nice visual effect. I think ILM did that for the pilot, and obviously they've used it 3 times. But it was, certainly very nice to see that. I think LeVar certainly got to shine in this one. I think he's got more to do in this and all the previous ones, at least some meaty stuff for him to do. Mm-hmm. And the fact that the action was split between 3 different locations, so 3 different sort of pieces, was really interesting. Typically it's 1 or 2, and here we have 3, which kind of keeps the pace moving. And, just kind of acting in this artificial jungle. Denise, how big was this? It looked like it was really small.
Yeah. It was one soundstage, and I'm imagining it was set where the pit that Picard and Crusher have fallen into is one section of the soundstage, and then the jungle is the other section of the soundstage. So it's not terribly huge, and just silly jungle looking thing. It was ridiculous, I running around in this fake thing, but you make it work. It wasn't very big though.
Well, somebody sorry, Cirroc.
It looked like the home and garden section at Home Depot. That's where I thought it was.
Thank goodness we got that
one in. missing those big bags of turf, somewhere.
That's it.
All right. Somebody that's not a turf. Allison Leach-Heid is here. What's up, Allison? How are you today? What do you think of this episode?
Doing well, thank you. Nice to see you all. So I like this episode. It's, as everyone said, it's fun. It moves well. Everyone has something to do. All the lady crew members do their jobs proficiently. They get to say lots of words and lines. And we got a new lady, Ensign Sue, who was adorable and did a great job. So it was nice. I really enjoyed that. My favorite is Geordi commanding the young crew, is what I was calling them in my notes. Because it was wonderful to see him, rise into a command situation, find his battle with getting his confidence in it, and then sitting into it is I can do this. And then getting that great scene with Troy of hey, no, you're doing great, but they need to do great too. So tell them they're doing great. And it's always something, well, as a mom, that I do with my kids, no, I want you to do well. So encourage to get the best out of everyone. And I love that that was shown in this, even though we are battling a deranged AI, but we still have a lot of human interaction, which I thought was really well done. And Tasha, I'm going to steal Chris's thing of having a favorite line. Tasha had mine, and it was, Data, you may be sturdy, but you're not indestructible.
She knows.
The entire episode. So
She would know.
Yeah, she knows. Somebody that is indestructible, though, of course, it's Chris McGee. What's up, Chris? What did you think of this episode?
Oh, I rather enjoyed it, and I don't think there's actually a more timely episode to watch now here in 2023. Holy cow. As everyone has already mentioned, it was great seeing Denise get some spotlight, finally showing us why Yar is the security chief here. But also it was great seeing the prolific Vincent Schiavelli, who's been in lots of popular movies in the past. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Batman Returns, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, Ghost, Tomorrow Never Dies.
Yeah, he was in
dozens
Ghost.
of others.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's the one that taught Patrick Swayze how to interact with the physical world. Yeah. So great seeing him. He kind of acts like the Elon Musk or Sundar Pichai, who's peddling basically the AI and how great it is for everyone to have. Which of course leads me to my next point. This is just such a great timely episode showing us the dangers of AI, which the Terminator I think initiated back in 1980 or whenever that was released, and it just continues on with this. Personally, I can't wait to see the follow-up to this episode where Picard has to explain to Starfleet why they received an invoice for 10,000 bars of gold pressed platinum. And my memorable quote of the episode, and I hate to say it, but it is the one that has stuck with me throughout the years, and I in no way endorse this. It's probably the next quotable for the GOP is peace through superior firepower.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that was a big one. Thank you very much, Mr. Chris McGee. Carrie Schwent is here. She's hanging out in a forest somewhere, some kind of woodland area. What are your thoughts today?
I enjoy this episode. It had many moments that made you laugh, like poor Denise having Data just chuck her, just grabbed her shoulder and just threw her, and wherever she must have landed okay because she was okay the rest of the episode. I loved the little floating drone that to me kind of looked like the love child of a hairdryer and a Cylon Raider with that little band going across. And I have a couple small things that I'll save for later. But I do want to focus for a minute on Geordi. He was very much the MVP of the entire episode. It is very hard to project the vibe that what you're doing when inside you are just shaking like a leaf, and especially standing up to the, well, I'm a lady, so I won't say what I'm actually wanting to call him. We'll just say tool of Logan. They're standing up to him, a guy who can't make up his mind, or whether he's yelling at Geordi for not leaving orbit, and then yells at Geordi for leaving orbit. Can't make up his mind. Geordi sends him back to the back to engineering where he was needed. Once he decides he's going to separate, sends him back up, gives him a little bit of rope so he thinks he's winning when he says, okay, I'm giving you command, pauses just long enough for Logan to smile, and then says, of the saucer section, I'm going to the battle bridge and we're going to go back. You guys get going. We'll catch up to you later. And while I may not agree with what they are selling, I decided for my limerick for the episode, decided to come up with a jingle for the AI weapon system. So I'll end my time with that. Many weapons of war I have to sell to aid against ground and air personnel. All are welcome to buy. Give my weapons a try. Once purchased, your conflict will be quelled. So if they had a jingle, that would be their jingle. And I love that actor. He's an excellent part of one of my favorite 2-part episodes of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So let's get that out there. He is awesomely, subtly but awesomely creepy.
All right, everybody. Faith Howell is back. She's been running around. There's some rambunctiousness going on back there. But how are you? What did you think of this episode?
So I did not have a chance for a rewatch this week as I normally would. So I'm drawing on previous views here, but I definitely remember this one, as being particularly memorable in the first season. And I feel like, especially after listening to you guys, I think it's because it's just terrifying. Like the whole idea that there's this weaponry that could potentially be put out there, I mean, with, I guess, the best intentions, that could kill an entire population of world, is like, I just can't even. Why would we do that? Let's not do that, guys. Can we not, please? So
let's everyone on this meeting swear we will not do that.
Promise you don't destroy the world, everybody. Don't be a jerk.
Don't worry.
So, but I also was thinking about those scenes with Picard and Crusher, and was this not the first little notch there on our whole arc towards, Jack Crusher? Maybe. So I mean, I definitely found that.
Oh,
believable.
Jack was made in decay. Oh, now I'm seeing.
No, my God, she's barely got a leg.
I know.
You don't need legs for that, Denise.
She's barely conscious.
Yeah,
that's
that.
Nice move, Picard. Nice move.
Yeah.
Let the woman heal, for God's sake.
Jeez.
Anyway. Thanks, Faith. Great stuff. Marcia, classic Schreier is here, everybody. Unmuting and saying hello. What do you think of this one?
I have to apologize for the background noise. My 1.5-year-old grandson is visiting, and so it's hard to keep that quiet. But I have to, just reiterate what a lot of people said, so I won't do that. It was scary, as Faith was saying. It's scary that these things are still happening in the 24th century. I mean, anyway, I'll pick on some nitpicky things. Yes, Geordi was great. He was probably the star, but why was a lieutenant in charge of the ship? Why is everybody of command level on the planet? So that bothered me. Seeing Riker and actually Jonathan Frakes and his acting in this after watching season 3 of Picard, as people have said in previous weeks, it's just reinforces how robotic he was during the first season, except for the line where he has a twinkle in his eye when they're talking about him being offered the captaincy of the Drake and he didn't take it because, you know, he thought being on the Enterprise would be more beneficial. And he's got like this smirk and this twinkle, and I just love that. And he had my favorite line, the lollipop. It's a good ship.
Mm-hmm. I like that one.
I love that. I couldn't stand how he was shouting at Rice, but I think that goes back to the kind of acting he was using, his acting style during the first season. I also couldn't stand how Data threw Tasha out of the way. You'd think that the chief of security would know how to get out of the way, but
I should have thrown Data out of the way.
You should have thrown Data, right?
He could take it.
I loved how, I don't remember exactly where it was, but I loved how the shields and deflectors came on by themselves, as opposed to almost every episode of the original series where you had to wait for Captain Kirk to say, raise the shields, you know, get ready to fire. That shouldn't be done. But I loved LaForge's engage at the end. That was good. It also amazed me how much the crew still doesn't know about what Data can do and what he can't. Like, he jumped down to get Picard and Crusher out, and like, why don't they know he can do these things? Haven't they studied him at all? And I think everything else was covered.
Mm-hmm.
I'm rewatching these. Okay, so backtrack 35 years. I did not watch the first season of Next Generation when it first aired, because I was a original series purist, and I was like, okay, nobody can take their place. So I didn't watch them.
You were one of them.
I was one of them. Yes. And it's probably a good thing I didn't watch it then, because when I did get into it in the third season, I appreciated it. It had, you know, much better quality. But rewatching them now, this is probably the third or fourth time that I've seen this episode. You see a lot of things, especially when you're preparing for, you know, a talk like this. You see a lot of things that didn't see on the first or the second watch. So it's a good thing, because there's always many different layers of every episode.
Mm-hmm. Ain't that the truth? Well, thanks very much, Marcia. Great stuff there. Speaking of great stuff, Mai is here. What's up, Mai? How are you? What'd you think of this particular episode entitled Arsenal of Freedom?
No opinions on guns at all myself. Now I just want to wish everybody a happy Saturday morning from Tokyo. I am back in the saddle over here. Real camera, real microphone, really early in the morning. So I'll try and make sense. I think, like Melissa said, regarding the cast sharing the strengths, I think that's exactly something I saw. You really get a sense of each person doing something, really participating, and the ship being run by a capable group. I thought that was a really clear aspect of this. So I'm glad you brought that up earlier, Melissa. DS9 told us that 2024 was the pit where humanity goes at the very, very bottom. We're a year away from that, and we seem to be right on track. These people in Virginia at the court who decided in the last couple of days that it was okay to sell guns at federal stores to kids under 21, 18, 20-year-olds should not be denied their rights under the Second Amendment. What a bunch of baloney, using that word because we're in family hour here. The access to guns is just completely ignorant, and so I had to put this up today because I think that we need to fix our society, or America needs to fix its society, I should say. I ran the hell away from there a long time ago. But we have to start learning. So that was something I really took away from this. I love Star Trek, but I did not like the concept of guns being something that were held up the way they were in this episode, given what's going on in society today. But enough of that negativity. One question for you, Denise, if I can. After formalizing your impending departure, don't you feel like they started all of a sudden giving you much more meaningful roles out of the blue?
This is such an interesting question, and one that is only becoming apparent to me by rewatching these shows with you guys. Because again, I've it's so long ago and I've forgotten. Yes, but by now we have that in place. We know that I'm going to leave and I'm going to get killed. So I am so curious, like if I could go back and talk to my then self right now and go, how did you go to the set each day? How did you do this role? What was the vibe on set right now at this point? Because nothing is being revealed. You can't tell anything. I'm not suddenly, acting differently as Tasha Yar, but inside, I must have been going, wow, okay, guys, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I've been talking about. Not just me getting to be the chief of security, but as you've all pointed out, which is quite noticeable, there's multiple storylines going on here. We're all doing something. That was the illusion I was under, that's how the show was going to go. So now it's almost like, were you consciously aware that you were doing exactly what I had been like hoping for or asking for or insinuating? Now you've done it. But guess what? I'm leaving. So it's such an interesting thing that I'm processing as you're coming up with it as well at the same time you are, because I just watched this episode earlier before our show and haven't seen it. So in the sort of the way it's going in the numerical order we're going in the chronological way it's going, I'm going, wow, I'm coming up to the end. So what an interesting thing to reflect on and ponder, because I don't know, but it's apparent.
Yeah, it's wow. Wish they had gotten their heads straight and kept you there.
Mm-hmm. All right.
But I couldn't have made Pet Cemetery.
Everybody go check out Pet Cemetery. You'll be glad you did.
Sela, and I couldn't have had Yesterday's Enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
So there's I really believe that all, everything is as it should be. We are all in our time of now. It's that moment. So we it had to, it's the ripple effect. God knows what, had I stayed or had that, if we wouldn't be, who knows if Deep Space Nine would have happened. Right. Voyager, everything would have changed.
Yeah.
Well, now everybody, speaking of God knows, Homer Frizzell is here. He's pretty much a Greek god. Everybody knows.
La Loupe. You're wearing a La Loupe.
What'd you think of this episode, Homer?
Well, first off, I love La Loupe, and I was inspired by a TNG photo that Denise was in with me, and a lot of the cast was wearing it at New York Comic Con back about 10 years or so ago.
Wow.
Pull it up a little bit so we can see it.
Oh.
That's the leather one. Is that the LeVar Burton model?
I searched it out, so it's before the LeVar Burton one came out, but it's the same one. Yeah,
like my other one. I'm wearing my fancy one today. My pearls.
That is nice.
Yeah.
So La Loupe, check it out. There's a site. Okay. So what did I think about this episode? As I said, 8.1. I had a couple observations. One, if Troy is staring at someone, we're going to learn something about what's going on with them. So that's helpful. Logan, I actually honestly thought when he appeared that he was a part of the program. I did. And I thought, wow, here's an obstacle that the AI down there has created. And it's geared towards somehow generating a sale or something. And then afterwards, I was realizing, okay, actually, no, this is a real person on the Enterprise. I'll just leave that there.
Almost.
The last thing I have that struck me kind of funny was they were on their way to Minos, and they were talking about the planet, and they said there's no intelligent life on the planet. And I had to think, wait, there's life on the planet. Those are the beings that are intelligent because they're still alive. So come on. Yeah. It was like the intelligent life. No, the unintelligent life is dead. But that's what I have. Sorry, quick and short. I'll take questions afterwards. Yeah.
Beautiful. You know, right when you said Minos, it made me remember that Minos Corva is also mentioned in Chain of Command, isn't it? Isn't that what the Cardassian was trying to get the strategic plans for Minos Corva from Picard? Jason's got to know. Anyway,
Minos.
He's nodding yes.
Yeah.
Very nice. All right.
Fantastically.
Any final thoughts, Denise and Cirroc?
Yeah, this is interesting, this episode, for all the things, we talked about. It was, I loved seeing Vince Schiavelli. He just is just one of those unique character actors, and I was so excited to see him come on the episode. Also seeing Julia Nixon playing Ensign Sue. I think she was, if I'm not mistaken, considered for Yar at one point. And she is a lovely, I've known her, over the years, and I have a feeling we were in acting class together at some point. I'm almost positive we were right around this time. That was great to see her. And, like we talked about, it's so weird that Picard falls down into the pit without a scratch on him. It was just a little weird, but all in all, this episode I thought was really, really fun and really good, and terrifying, the message.
Yeah. I was thinking that Wesley could have saved the day in this moment. I was looking for Wes. I was like, where the hell's Wesley at? We got calculations of AI stuff to do, and I know he's good at this stuff.
Yeah.
So I was kind of missing Wesley. Yeah, a little bit, because he's good for these kinds of things. These are the riddles and things that his mind works good. He's like the puzzle. He likes to figure out puzzles. I think this would have been the kind of puzzle he would have liked. Yeah, I also, it's really weird when they circumcise the ship like that. It's just weird to see the star drive section separated from the.
When they circumcise the ship?
Is that what it's called? I don't know what the official.
I love it. I mean, no, that's not.
I don't know what the technical name is.
I think that is the technical name. Yeah.
Is that what it is?
It is now.
No, sorry. My husband's Jewish. Okay, that's a whole different thing. I now have in my mind. Okay? Not a thing. That's a different thing.
Okay, it's the different terminology. I have to look up the technical manual on that.
Oh my God! Circumcise the ship. That is so cool. Wow.
I I did like the idea that Geordi came up with too. We didn't talk about it that much, but I love the idea of being able to identify the drone that was attacking them by entering the atmosphere of the planet and looking at the disruption that would be caused by it. I thought that was a clever way to solve the problem of this kind of cloaked popping up out of nowhere device, because it would reveal its location. I was like, oh, that's so great. Just look at the disturbance. And so in the scientific way, I thought that gave me a little bit of something to hold on to in the realm of science fiction, where I felt like these guys are really coming up with scientific ways to problem solve that makes sense to me as the viewer. And that's why I felt like this episode is really one of my favorite episodes, because I think it embodies a lot of the things that I'm looking for in a Star Trek science fiction show. It gives me the mystery, it gives me the science, it gives me the problem solving, and then it also gives me the personal relationship building of each person. And of course, I have to agree with everybody else about Geordi. I thought he was just fantastic for keeping his cool in such a really crisis type of situation, and also telling off in a very eloquent way Chief Engineer Logan, who wanted to pop up out of nowhere and become the chief. There's a, so I thought it was great how Geordi kind of guided him out of the room without having a big explosion and losing his calm. So for all of those reasons, I think this is one of the best episodes of this first season. Also, Hans Beimler, like I said, showing his writing skills by giving us that good dialogue with the teleplay. And another line that I wanted to say that I liked that you delivered, Denise, was in the beginning when you kind of are making this assumption about no life forms on the planet, and you say something to the effect of, in every war, natural disasters, and even the most virulent plagues, there's always survivors. And it kind of sums up the hope of Star Trek in general about us surviving and there being survivors. And no matter what kind of tragedy we go through, we're going to find ways to survive and move on. I think that's one of the big inspirations of the show.
And remember, Tasha Yar is a survivor.
Totally.
So there's an echo. There's an echo for her to make that, to make that statement. And you're reminding me of that by saying this. That is her central core theme. So if that notion appears, it's going to be, oh no matter what happens, you can survive, no matter what happens. And which is, very powerful. I also, I'm going to end on this, that I love that she, her energy and her spontaneity comes through, when it's revealed that Riker turned down a captain placement on the Drake, and she goes, she just goes, wait, you did that? You're here instead of there? It's like she embodies the emotional kind of tone that sometimes the formality of the officers keep them from expressing. And I was always looking for that note, that human spirit, that like, we're officers. We went through the training. We're all good at what we do, but we're also really human, and that having grown up watching the original series, I really wanted to make sure that we come on as these as these imaginary space officers, these in the future, and this militaristic approach, but we also, we're flawed and we're human, and we're spontaneous and we're emotional and we make mistakes, so that I was always looking for that. And when there was a moment I could express that or grab that, I went there. And
Maybe.
One other thing, Marcia, sorry, I know I'm blabbing on, but I'm gonna, just because you brought up something about being at a distance and looking back on these episodes now with a long period of time, you see other things. My God, this has been this whole experience for me.
Right.
I totally get it. I mean, I am looking at these episodes from a totally different place in my life, in my career, as a person, having done these. I don't even remember doing them half the time. So it's like, wow, seeing, oh, wow, yes, I get Tasha Yar. I get how she would have made an impact. I get that what I was trying to do. It's reminding me of what I was trying to do. So it's a very, very unique experience. So I totally get what you're saying. Thank you for saying that.
Maybe Tasha just said they're giving you captaincy because she's like, this is the horniest guy on the ship. What are they? Do they know this? They'll hump anything. So everybody at home.
Oh, wait. One other thing. How about, sorry. I'm not going to leave you. Okay. How about Riker's physical, got his leg on the bog?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, did that
at one point he was leaning on a
me?
log too. He was going like this.
Oh my God, he's got his, it's like,
that's the Riker move.
Captain, right? He's talking. He doesn't know yet that he's, not Rice,
right?
And he's like, "Hey, dude," he's like, "Oh man, sorry." Oh God, oh man. Riker. I wish I had Jonathan more, actually, now that I look at this, and just like pull him aside and go, don't put your leg on the log,
Yeah.
Don't do that.
You should see him in the sauna. He's too much in the sauna. He makes me leave every time.
He's like, but I'm wearing a towel. It doesn't help.
I've been in a sauna with them, okay? It's weird. Not good.
Back in the house.
All right.
But don't you think his quip back to Picard was just a little bit flirty too? I mean, when it was revealed that he'd given up the command of the Drake, he's like, yeah. And I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
He's all over the place with his passion.
Just that 80s dude, it's just All right, you guys, if I think of something else, I'll
tweet it at us.
oh, wait, there's one more thing. Love you. See you maybe Saturday.
Don't leave us just yet.
Sorry. God,
everybody, she was on vacation, everybody partying at a convention. So she's all over the place right now. She had a great time. Everybody at home, let us know which Cirroc joke you liked better. Was it the Minos play on words, which was very good, or was it the circumcision joke?
Oh God! I'm voting first, okay?
Yeah, let us know. And thank you to Melissa, Eve, Jason, Allison, Chris, Marcia, Carrie, Faith, and Homer. We will see you all soon, and until then, always remember the 7th rule.